Hey there, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Talking to Myself, the part of the day where I talk to myself about things that I was thinking the night before. Shout out, of course, to all 700 and something subscribers at the time you make this video, 700 plus. Thank you, I truly do appreciate it, as well as shout out to everyone that's communicating with me in the comments. Shout out to Saratoga Peanut Butter, shout out to Lotus Flame Candle Company, shout out to the Kings of Leon, shout out to the Los Angeles Dodgers and Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts breaking out of the slump. Shout out to the LA Lakers and Alex Caruso. Caru Goat, we know you're going to have to carry us tonight, and so please call upon your GOAT status and hit us with a nice 21, 7, and 7. So shout out to Alex Caruso. Shout out to Luka Doncic for solidifying in my mind that he's probably going to be the best player in the league for the next decade. And if anything, he's probably going to be a top 10 player all time. The boy's just too damn good at 22 years old. And of course, shout out to the X Pro 3 and the 35 1.4, which are recording this video, as well as the TAKSTAR SGC 598 or something like that. And the H1N from Zoom, as well as my Godox softbox and a cheap $14 Casa light bulb that is able to change multicolors. That's what I'm using to record everything. I think it works pretty good, depending if I get backlit or not, but I've never really had many options as long as I keep the shooting on continuous on my Fujifilm camera. So again, just bringing you guys up to speed. I've had a lot of work recently. Yesterday I got a couple more emails. Today I'm having a meeting with someone about basically branding, initiative, and marketing, as well as working on some graphics for some people. They had a graphic designer, didn't like the way he did things. They want me to take what they have and change it up a little bit and make it more of their own. They're wanting to put it on shirts and stuff. It's for a small business in the city of New Braunfels. And, things are going good. Things are nice. Things are progressing. It's getting pretty fun. I've got someone who, in the city of San Antonio wants to record a video for a Christmas in July kind of thing. She's a woman who works with autism or autism awareness. She's got a cosplayer alliance, and they do a lot of things, community service for people, and they work with a lot of nonprofits. So doing some work with that. And the biggest thing is the fact that at this point, I'm having to make conscious decisions and having to start thinking in my mind about where I'm going as far as with my business and the fact that it's picking up again and what I'm going to need. Me saying that is because I mentioned yesterday, never buy the brand, buy the gear. What I meant by never buy the brand, buy the gear is very, very simple. It's never care. Don't worry about what brand you're getting into, because it doesn't matter. Because for the most part, what you need to do, you're focusing more on specs and ability versus the name brand and things like that. To be honest with you, I would take a cheap nifty 50, like young now Canon lens, and a nice Canon DSLR body like a 5D Mark III. If all you do is record 1080p and I knew I could control the environment, like I would take that and save my money versus spending $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 on a brand new camera with a $3,000, $4,000 lens. If it's for these small things, I'm going to be doing things like helping people set up for the YouTube productions, doing long form podcast, as well as long form interviews and testimonials, as well as some commercial brand work. Now, for the longest time, for the past year, I've been using my X Pro 3 in any work like that. You guys don't see a lot of it. I haven't put it up. I used to make little faux ads on TikTok and Instagram so that I could put them out there so people would be able to see my work and things like that, as well as I've made, a lot of real estate videos, a lot of real estate advertisements and things like that, everything of that nature. With that, the X Pro 3 has been more than enough. It's got great focusing, it tracks faces, eyes, heads, things like that, especially when I'm in a well-lit environment that I can control, because again, 90% of your videos are going to be how well you can control your lighting and how you know how to manipulate it when shooting in log format. So, I'm able to do that. But the thing is, for this long form stuff, the X Pro 3, even though at 1080p I can record for 60 minutes, I believe continuous, or 30 minutes continuous. Actually, I think it's a full hour continuous on 1080p in the X Pro 3, if I'm not mistaken whatsoever. But the issue becomes, well, what do I do if I have to run over? Do I make them stop? Do I have an A and a B camera? And if I'm gonna go with an A and a B camera, because I primarily am an A cam shooter. I shoot everything that I shoot A cam. I don't do B cam. What I do is I do multiple takes. That's what I choose to do. Period. That's the way I do it. I do one line running through and this angle, one line running through at another angle, one line run through and a third angle, or just different, basically like me cropping in but with my feet. I do a lot of B-roll as my transition pieces. That's the way I work. I'm not a B-roll kind, I'm not a B-cam kind of guy. Reason being is because I used to do that in the job I worked, and you know, I don't like the look of someone looking off for a second away from the camera. I prefer showing product or showing what's going on and footage that tells more of a story instead of the side of someone's face and they're not looking directly in the camera. With that, what I'm saying is, I'm going to potentially probably have to start looking into another camera that can do the things I need to. Now, right now, of course, I'm looking at the X-H1 because for me, that's everything I need to do with videography. It's got IBIS in case I want to do that and put it on a shoulder rig and walk around. It'll help me out a little bit. But mostly I can comparatively, I mean, it's going to work very, very well. It's going to work fantastically with matching up with footage from the X Pro 3 if I shoot B-roll or anything. And so these are the things that I'm talking about. I'm in the Fujifilm system and I have the glass to go for it. And so the X-H1 is, you know, obviously that's the one I should be looking at. But if I have to shoot more long form things, there is a high likely chance that I'm going to go with an older Canon cinema camera and just get me, like I said, a cheaper 50mm lens and just run with that. Canon's dual pixel autofocus will be great. I'll be able to shoot on CF cards. I won't have a time limit stop, you know, as long as I've got batteries and as long as I'm in constant power. You know, I know how to expose for it. They should have log on it. If not, I can put magic lantern. There's a lot of things that I can do. And that's the thing, is I'm not afraid to branch out. If I have to get an A7 III with just one lens, I can do that too, except once again, I run into record time limits. I'm not the kind of person that wants an external monitor. I don't. That just seems too bulky. I don't care what people think about my rig. It doesn't seem like a great investment to me because there's not as much as I'm doing. The cinema camera would work for me if I get back into shooting weddings, because then I could shoot whole weddings and put that as part of my package and run it from beginning to end, record that, run transmitters up to it, and work like that. The X-H1, the reason why I've thought about that as being the other alternative is if I use that for weddings and I don't record long format video, I have two cameras now and I can have two lenses on two separate bodies and be able to transition like that. Buy the gear, don't buy the brand. Because if I was thinking about, okay, well, you know, I want to buy the brand, I would automatically be thinking, okay, I have to buy a Sony a7S III for this. And then I have to buy a really, really nice zoom lens. And I don't need that, because as far as the applications go, I primarily still will focus on photography. The videography is what's being brought into me, and the marketing side is what's being brought into me. I'm more of as a consultant in a lot of these situations, and so it's not necessary for me to go out and buy something top of the line, whatever. I can get away with shooting 1080 on a Canon cinema camera. They're going to be older, which means, because I've already worked with them, I know this, that the files are really easy to work with. They're really soft and tender. They're not going to be super duper sharp, which is great because that's the way I shoot anyway, and I usually put filters on it to break down the sharpness on people's skin. I know how to make everything in those cameras look great. And so that's what I mean. You don't buy the gear, or you don't buy the brand. You buy the gear. You buy exactly what you need. And you may be thinking, oh my gosh, it's a waste of money to buy into another brand. Not exactly. If I'm buying one lens to do everything that I need to do in one body that serves one specific purpose, and by the time I'm done doing all these jobs, it already pays for itself. No, it's not. It's not, because now I have something that's available for me to do other things as well. And that's the way you guys have to look at it. You have to look at it as, okay, what is my return on investment going to be on this quickly? Okay, am I already in a business to where I've got 10 weddings a year? If so, okay, I can understand me buying an A7S III and recording a full wedding in 4K and doing all the B-roll and stuff, having a second shooter, all these things. That will get me money to pay that off. If you're someone who's just starting out and you just got your first wedding, I wouldn't go out and buy that, because you never know if you're going to get a second. For those of you who are just starting out in business with photography, you guys would understand, like, or if you got those of you who own a photography business, you guys know this. There are seasons outside when wedding season's over in a lot of places because of the, you know, the weather and the seasons. It gets pretty damn bad. I mean, you're really scrapping along trying to find jobs. You don't get that large lump sum of income anymore. Even more than that. For those of you that are just, you know, you're just avid shooters, you're not novice, but, you know, you shoot for fun, you shoot because you enjoy it. If work comes along, that's great. You're like me, where you're not making this your full-time job, but if work comes along, you're going to accept it and welcome it because, hey, extra income is fantastic. You don't need to be spending all this extra cash on certain things. You don't need to buy the newest, shiniest, prettiest thing whatsoever. Just get something that works for you. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss out on, and why we have so many people who buy stuff and they have to sell it later because it doesn't meet their needs. You're buying things with the purpose of one day if, then I'll already have, instead of, well, today I can and I already have. And that's the way you have to look at it. So today I can buy a $7,000 rig, camera and lens, and have a great video system in case something happens, but I don't need that, because today I can shoot basically this regular ass video that they want, the way they want it, lit pretty well, shoot it in log, be able to color grade it, make it look fantastic with what I already have. And so I never worry about what brand I'm buying for that reason specifically. Like I said, I used to have Canon, Sony cameras for video and Canon cameras for photo. I used to have that in my bag. I used to have a Sony and Canon at the same time. I used to have Fujifilm and Canon at the same time. Now I'm completely with Canon cameras, or Fujifilm cameras. I've gone back and forth. I've had Olympus and Canon. I've had Panasonic. I've owned a lot of cameras. I've had a lot of things, and I always purchased when they suited my needs. When I felt like, okay, you know what, I'm not using this for anything right now, I sold the camera I didn't need, I made my money back, or I made more, because I always buy in bundles on eBay. So I buy it with lens with body, because I can always sell the lens for more money. I always do it like that. And I always make my money back, or I make more money, and I can invest that later down the line into another camera when I need it. For case in point, whenever I had my EOS R and I wasn't digging it, really not liking the way it shot and things like that, and then I realized the video capability on it was kind of not my favorite and kind of shit, I purposely switched and sold that so I could get the X Pro 3, because I know I could get more lenses for it. I know I could save some extra cash, and I knew that this thing could record video the way I liked it. I already knew how to work pretty well with F-Log, and I knew that if it had the X-Trans4 sensor, what I was getting myself into, and I knew that I already liked working with it better than I liked using Canon files, and that the color, unfortunately for a lot of you guys are going to hate me for this, but it's true. The latitude on Fujifilm cameras is actually a lot better than the files out of the EOS R. Let me do one thing real quick. Hey Google, turn on the study lamp to 80%.
Okay, setting the study light brightness to 80%.
I realized I didn't have that on for the last couple of videos, and I think that was a nice accent light, mostly because I didn't want to blow anything out, but it seems really dark today. So yeah, hopefully that helps you out. But yeah, when it just comes to buying, you don't buy the gear based on the camera brand because you hear the specs are great. Buy what you need, because when you do that, you actually begin to save cash because you're looking for specific things. The things I need are at least 1080 or 4K at 24, at least 1080. And depending on which brand, I know 1080 can do pretty well. So at least 1080 or 4K at 24 frames per second. I'm not worried about 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit. The reason being why is because a lot of clients don't even know how to differentiate between 8-bit and 12-bit themselves. They won't be able to see it by the naked eye when they're reviewing it on their devices, which a lot of times are going to be social media or on a computer, hardly ever on a TV. And even then they're not even going to be able to tell. And that's the thing, is if for the consumer they're not able to tell with a naked eye first glance what something is, and if it's a huge difference, what exactly kind of value are you getting back from that? So, how many stops of dynamic range do you need before you learn how to light correctly? That kind of stuff you have to ask yourself. Same thing when it comes to photography and things like that. How many frames per second do you need? I've got 11 frames per second, I believe, on the X Pro 3, and that's never failed me once. I actually used that burst mode for a photo shoot this weekend for that graduation shoot, and it worked great. I didn't need 30 or 20 frames per second, and I think a lot of people that need 30 or 20 frames per second are over-exaggerating. They're prima donnas, they're drama queens, they're people that like to pretend like they're like that's a badge of professionalism, like they use it, but they don't. For a wedding, that 11 frames per second is going to be perfect. Now for sports photography, 20, 30, 40, 50 frames, whatever you can get, that's going to be fantastic. That's where you need it. Wildlife photography, that's where you need it. But in regular things with human interaction and slow interactions where there's not fast twitch muscle being necessary, I've never seen someone have to really lunge in to be able to kiss their wife because their wife is afraid of cooties at their wedding day and they can't reach them. So I mean, you don't really need some 30 frames per second thing, but that's the kind of stuff, if you don't crop in because you know how to correctly frame and create your photo, and you don't need to crop in on your photos. At what point does a 40 megapixel, 50 megapixel sensor begin to hurt you when it comes to low light, and you begin to understand that transfer of low light capability versus cropping isn't that fantastic? I mean, because that's the thing is I see a lot of people set them up. They'll get this camera with a huge sensor and be like, oh, I can crop in 3 times. And it's like, well, before you had that camera, did you ever crop in 3-4 times in? Or did you just use your zoom? Did you just walk? Did you use your feet as a zoom like a grown-ass adult like I do? Shout out to Crocs, because that's what I got on today. I had them in sports mode, so it was kind of tough. I mean, that's the thing you got to ask yourself. Did you ever do that before? No? Okay, well, don't fucking do it now. Oh, great. Now you want to complain and bash the company because the low light's not good. That's your fucking fault. That's a dumb decision. Should have stuck with the 20-something megapixel sensor in the Goldilocks zone and been able to crop in a little bit, but actually use the zoom lenses you purchased or use your fucking feet. Now I get it if you're in wedding photography, but if you're in wedding photography and you don't have zoom lenses and you're planning on using cropped images in order to get what you need, don't be a bitch and just fucking rent a lens. Go to borrowlenses.com. You're ruining opportunities for you to get photos for the people you're working for. Invest a little bit. It's not that hard. $50 for $90 for 3 days. Yeah, you'll make that up. Include that into the cost. But don't do this bullshit to where you crop in. I'm tired of people talking about, oh my gosh, have you seen the crop modes on this large sensor? No, I haven't, because I'm not a bitch. Okay? I zoom in like a grown-ass man with a zoom lens or with my feet. And if I can't zoom in, then guess what? I know how to balance my photo, and I know composition so I can make it look decent. And that's the thing is, you guys use crops as a self-face or as a safe fail sometime, fail-safe, whatever it is. And that's kind of weird. It's weird how the people that are so professional and they're so this, that, and the other, and they're so a tier above everyone else. And I know what I'm doing, and I've been a photographer for 8 years, and I know every single thing there is to know about photography. And I love my my Canon EOS R whatever because I can crop in if I need to save this photo. Why the fuck do you need to save a photo? You messed up. So now you're a lazy ass photographer? That's great. Now I know if I hire you, you're a lazy ass dude, and if you can't crop to save, you're gonna suck. So you don't know composition, so if it's not for you having a zoom lens and cropping, you're a shitty photographer. That is scary. Go back to the basics, shoot black and white for a little bit, learn how to fucking compose. But yeah, I don't know how I got on this tangent right here. I'm at 19 minutes, I think. That's it, man. I mean, that's all I got, man. Just buy the gear, not the brand, and don't fucking worry about all this bullshit with crops and sensors. Like, I'm just tired of specs, man, because people throw spec numbers at me all the time. People will go on IG and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this camera? It's got this, this, and this." I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what the sensor size is, and I'm not being rude, but like, I'm like, well, I don't really care. How do the images look like? They look good. Then buy it. Is it in your budget? It's a little bit out of it. Then don't buy it. Buy something that's in your budget. Buy it. I'm being serious. I've got a whole bunch of people that I follow on Instagram that you know, they don't have a brand new 40 megapixel camera. They're shooting on film. They're scanning those, which means they're losing quality because they're doing scans. They shoot on an X-H1. Someone's shooting on an X-H1 in the Camlin, I think like a 40 millimeter 1.7 for a full year. One camera, one lens for a full year. You know, you have a lot of people who, you know, I know people who shoot on an X-E3, which isn't fair because that is the world's greatest camera ever invented, and a 35 1.4. You know, you don't need a brand new camera to create all this fantastic stuff, and you guys have to get out of that mindset. We all do. We have to get out of the mindset. I mean, I bought a used X Pro 3 whenever they were still fairly brand new cameras because I wanted the newest X Pro line, mostly because I like the back screen. But I mean, we all have to do better. But you don't have to buy the brand newest thing in order to create quality media. But the longer that you believe you have to have that for you to create quality media, the longer that your media is going to suffer because you'll use every excuse other than the fact that you're a shitty photographer or a shitty videographer and you need to learn more. And that's the thing. Everyone's got to continue to learn, including yourself. If you got this far, thanks. But have a good one.